Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper, independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! Today I have for you what I am calling an offset rectangle card. This is something I saw a picture of something similar online and decided to see if I could recreate it myself. So offset rectangle is what I've decided to name it. So this is just a little bit of a different card technique. Nothing very complicated about it. I find myself when I make cards, I tend to be very symmetrical and like straight lines and things, so sometimes I need to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone and make something a little different. So this offset rectangle is what I decided to try for today. And you do not need a lot of supplies to create this card. We are going to start with a card base that is 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches. So half a sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and you're going to score it at 4.5 inches. I'm sorry, 4.25 inches on the 8.5 inch side. So right down the middle, and then you can go ahead and fold your card. And next, you will need a panel of cardstock. This is mint macaron, and this is 5.25 by 4. What I call your standard insert or first layer for a card. And what we'll be doing in a moment is just layering this right on the front. But I want to add to it before I get started. So I'm going to bring over my Stampin' Pierce mat and then a piece of scrap paper. And the reason for that is I am using my hand-penned petals set, and this is a clear photopolymer stamp, and it doesn't have a built-in cushion like the red rubber cling stamps that we have. So I need this mat underneath, just a little something. If you don't have a fancy piece of foam, even a catalog or a magazine will do. So it'll just help you get a better impression with your stamp. So I'm going to take my mint macaron panel here, and I'm going to stamp tone on tone and use mint macaron ink as well. And I picked one of the floral images from the stamp set. I decided to go with the less flowery one, so not this one. I decided to go with this stamp down here at the bottom corner. And so what I'm going to do is just stamp and create kind of an all-over image, stamping off the paper a little bit. And obviously most of this is going to be covered up by the rectangle, but I want to make sure I'm happy with how the rest of the card looks. So I'm just going to turn the stamp in different directions and then make sure I'm happy with how the outside edges of the card look. So I'm going to stamp this bottom, even though most of it's probably going to be covered, and that way I'll just know it's all good to go. Before I put that stamp away, I'm going to do a couple more things. First of all, I'm going to stamp my envelope corner. I don't like naked envelopes. I hate putting a plain envelope in the mail, so I like to give it either a stamped image or a flap of Designer Series paper or emboss the flap somehow, so that's got me covered for tonight. And then I'm going to stamp the inside of the card as well. I haven't completely decided what sentiment I want on this. I'm leaning towards anniversary, but it might end up being a birthday card instead. So I'm going to leave the sentiment off for now and just add some little accents here in case I decide to even leave the inside plain. So it's totally up to you. And that's all the stamping I'm going to do for now. So I will put this away. Next thing we're going to do is assemble the rectangle. So you will need a piece of cardstock for a rectangle that is 5.5 inches long by 2 3/4 inches tall, and then a piece of Designer Series paper that is 5.25 inches by 2.5. So these are going to layer one on top of the other, and I'll give you a second if you want to jot down those measurements or take a screenshot. Something to remember about this Designer Series paper piece that you'll be using is I would not go with something that is terribly directional, because we're going to be putting it at an angle. So I prefer using something that's more of an all-over print, that it doesn't matter which direction you have it on the card front. So what we're going to do is start with our panel here. You definitely want to attach your rectangle before you put this piece on your card front. So what I'm going to do is bring over my Stampin' Seal and glue my piece of Designer Series paper on my rectangle. And this is Misty Moonlight. I was really pulling all the colors out of this piece of Designer Series paper that does match the hand-penned petals suite. If you haven't checked out the new catalog, you can visit my website online and take a peek there. If you prefer a paper copy, you are more than welcome to get a hold of me if you're not working with another demonstrator, and I'll be glad to get you a copy of the catalog. So next, now that I have these layered together, I want to position the rectangle on the card front. Now you can really push it all the way across the card and make it more of a diagonal fill for the entire card. You can move it towards the bottom. It's totally up to you how much of the rectangle you want to put on the card front. When you are putting glue on this rectangle panel, obviously your rectangle is longer than your panel here, and you have to do that on purpose so that you have enough to get the effect you're going for. So you have to watch where you put your glue. So I like to put glue a little bit further than I need to, just because I want to make sure that the entire rectangle is going to stick to the card front. But if I were to turn this over and stick it down right now, I'd totally glue it to the work surface. So I'm going to bring over my silicone mat to save my work surface and to save me some embarrassment on camera. And then I'm going to go ahead and position this. And I think for this one, I'm not going to put it as far up, and you can maneuver your angle as well, so totally up to you how you want to position that. I think I like it here. I'm going to give that a good press, peel it off my silicone mat, and see, this way my work surface is protected. I can just give this a quick wipe and get any glue or adhesive off. And I did a pretty good job of not going overkill with the glue. I'm going to grab some scissors, and I'm just going to trim off these edges. Now, it's up to you. You can trim straight across and then turn your corner and straight up this way, but I'm going to show you in a little trick you can do if you just follow along the corner and hang on to this piece for just a little bit. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So now I have my panel and it's ready to go on the front of my card. So a little more adhesive here on the front. My adhesive is famous for being camera shy. Now layer this panel here on the front of the card and give that a good press. And you can see here why you want to glue your rectangle on your panel before you glue it on the card. It just gives you this nice crisp look, and then you're not trying to cut the rectangle off along the fold here. Now you can decorate your card any way that you like. I have a die cut shape. I pre-stamped and cut one of the floral images, the same one I used here on the card, and this is in Pale Papaya, so I was pulling that pink out of the Designer Series paper. And I also cut a tag from, I believe, the Ornate Layers set, and did Warmest Wishes, so that could be for a birthday, for anniversary, whatever I decide to use it for. So that'll come into play here in a minute. And then I want to add a little bow as well. So I have some ribbon, and this is Pale Papaya, so it matches this cardstock. This is one of our new in colors, and we have this beautiful open weave ribbon in all 5 of the new in colors. It's really a toss-up which is my favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow quickly here and pull that tight, trim my edges. I'll go ahead and trim the rest in a moment. I'm going to grab some dimensionals and just make sure I have enough on the back of this die cut to make sure it doesn't sag anywhere. And you could glue your die cut flat on the paper, totally up to you. I'll show you some other ideas here in a little bit. And now you can position your die cut wherever you like. If you like it down here at the bottom or in the center, if there's an area of your designer series paper you want to have more showing than others, it's totally up to you. For this one, I think I actually like it a little higher. Yeah, maybe we'll do it over here. So wherever you like. And what I'm going to do next is attach my bow with a glue dot. The other day, I put my tag on first and then had difficulty positioning the bow to cover what I wanted to on the tag. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, yep, couldn't tell for a minute if I picked up my glue dot or not. So I'm going to go ahead and put my bow here at the base of my flower bundle with a glue dot. And then I'm just going to grab a couple more dimensionals for the back of this tag. Now the tag does come with a little hole, but I decided not to fool with trying to thread ribbon through there. But I did want the effect of a tag. So now what I can do is kind of position this underneath here. You can finagle it wherever you want, but I think I like it over here tucked in, and I can just hide that little ribbon hole there. And there I have a perfectly sweet little card ready to go. So this technique does not take you a lot of time. It does not require a lot of supplies, just a little layering and a little embellishment, and you're ready to go. And of course you do have your envelope to go with it. So I do have some other samples to show you briefly. One is very, very similar to what we just made here on camera. If you have the hand-penned petals stamp set and the matching dies, it comes with this beautiful scallop strip die cut, and so I added that accent on this card. And so you can see the cards are very, very similar, just a little different in positioning. So you'll have a different card every time depending on where you lay that rectangle down on your card front. And you can use this for any occasion. I've needed some juvenile get well cards lately, so I decided to use a piece of brightly colored designer series paper. This is one of our host exclusive pieces right now. And so I wanted something colorful for the kids, and I thought turtles don't have to be green, so I stamped that in Bermuda Bay ink, added some watercolored pencils and a little bit of embellishment, and created that. I actually meant to give this a border of cardstock underneath the paper, but I cut the paper sort of on an automatic pilot at 5 1/4 by 4, and I didn't want to trim it down any further. So you can actually add the layer of cardstock and then add designer series paper. And I wasn't totally keen on how the watercolor pencil came out, so I made another card and simply used the stamp, the same turtle stamp, but what I did this time was I brought my rectangle in from the opposite direction. So you're not tied to just bringing it in from the left. You can bring it in from the right. You could even angle it the other direction if you want. Totally up to you. And I just added some fun gems to go with this one. And of course, made the matching envelope with that little turtle on the front. And these also make great Christmas cards. I brought out some retired designer series paper. I'm eagerly awaiting our new catalog, which will have this year's holiday paper selection in it. And again, I brought the rectangles in from different sides. Now I mentioned that you might want to hang on to those scraps that you cut from your rectangle. For example, I made 2 cards. So I have 2 of these kind of odd looking rectangles, but I kind of hate to throw anything away. So you have an option here. If you want to throw it away, go right ahead. Not everybody's a hoarder like me. But what I decided to do with these, I could just kind of give it a straight edge and have 2 triangles to work with, but I decided what I want to do. I'm going to create another card by matching these pieces together, and then I'm going to cover this middle section somehow and create another card. So if you feel creative and you want to do that, you can absolutely do that. And here is how I did that with the leftover scraps from the Christmas card. I simply glued them together and covered the seam. These actually matched up pretty well, and covered the seam with a piece of designer series paper and just got creative to do the front. I might have actually done this a little bit differently, except I kind of without thinking glued these down to my Mossy Meadow layer, so that kind of limited my options, but it still came out cute. So lots of different things and a way to use the scraps from one of your original cards. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the offset rectangle card. I would love it if you would reach over and hit that subscribe button and come back each time that I post a new video here at Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. And if you are a fan of Facebook, you can hop over there and look for me at The Faithful Stamper. I do Facebook Live videos there on Mondays and Fridays. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the card. Happy crafting!